Today I'm talking about books that I read in September, and the first book that I finished in September was Anxious People by Fredrik Backman. Now this book is about a bank robber, and this bank robber fails to rob the bank and flees into this apartment building. And there is this one apartment that is for sale, and there are possible buyers there, potential buyers there. And that is the apartment that this bank robber goes into, and it ends up being some sort of hostage situation. And then we have two police officers who are trying to defuse the situation, who are trying to solve the hostage situation. They are a father and a son, and they have their own sort of relationship going on. But we also see what is happening with the hostages in the building and the bank robber itself. Now, so far I had read two other books by Fredrik Backman. I read My Friends, which is the latest one, and I read A Man Called Ove. And both of those I liked a lot. They are really beautifully written. They are very good at portraying humanity. And my problem with this book was that it was boring for, actually over the first half of this book. I almost stopped reading it, which I don't normally do. I try to pull through all the time, but this really wasn't working. And then in the second half of the book, it definitely picked up. It got a lot better, and it finally turned into this Fredrik Backman style that I actually enjoy so much. So we got this pure humanity, all the things that make you laugh and all the things that make you cry, and it's all always in these little things, in the small things, and it is always about kindness, that we should be kind to one another. So I ended up enjoying the second half of this book, but if you don't like a book that takes its time to get somewhere, then I wouldn't advise Anxious People to you. Okay, and then I did something that I really wasn't planning on doing. If you saw my to be read video for September, then you know that I was planning to read certain books, definitely in September, and I had this whole list of books that I possibly wanted to read. But then I realized that a certain book was coming out in September, which I was looking forward to a lot to reading. And that was the 8th book in the Cormoran Strike series by Robert Galbraith. And because I knew that the 8th book was coming out, I decided to reread the 7th book in the series, which is The Running Grave. And this book is over 1,000 pages, so this took me quite a while, even as a reread, to run through again. But let me tell you about the series. We have the Cormoran Strike series, which is about Cormoran Strike, who is a private detective, and he works together with Robin Ellicott. She came in originally as an assistant, as a sort of secretary, I believe. But she has worked her way up and is now a partner in the agency. And each book continues with the lives of these people, which is interesting because you see them grow and you see them evolve. But of course, each book has its own case that is being solved in that particular book. And in this book, in The Running Grave, we are following Robin when she is going undercover in this cult, in this church. It's calling itself sort of a church, and she's going undercover there to witness what is actually happening there and to try and save people who are possibly being held against their will. And she uncovers all sorts of sordid things in the church. This one was actually my favorite so far in the series, and even rereading this one, I loved it so much. This was a great, absolutely phenomenal book. But as I said, the 7th in a series, it does really help you if you read the other books first, but who still has the time to read 7 books? So I reread this one to be in the same mindset again, because this one ended with a cliffhanger, and I really wanted to know what the build-up was like again, everything that had happened in this one, so I could smoothly go into book number 8, which is this one, The Hallmark Man. And I do like that I reread the previous book because, of course, it did make things go a little more smoothly. I don't know if it would have been absolutely necessary because most things that you should remember or should know from the previous book were sort of in like quite smart ways remembered, repeated in this one. So I think I could have skipped that one and saved myself some time to read other books. But anyway, then I read The Hallmark Man, and this one is about a body that is found in a silver vault, or the vault of a silver shop actually. And there is some talk about masonry being involved in this murder. And the case in this one for Robin and Cormoran is to find out who the body actually belonged to. Who is this person that was found there, because he was found without his teeth and without hands, so you have no fingerprints and stuff like that. So they have some potential missing persons that could be the body in the vault. Now, I didn't really like this one as much as I did previous ones, which is kind of sad because, as I said, I was really looking forward to this. I think the series is really well done. But my main issue with this book was that it is a little more, how do I say that, one tone than the other books were. In the other books we always have the relationship between Cormoran and Robin, which is one layer. You always have the case that they are trying to solve, which is another layer. And then usually Robert Galbraith puts in something special to make it a little more fun. Like in The Running Grave, it was Robin going undercover. Or in the book before that, which was the Ink Black Heart, I believe, we had these online chat rooms which you could follow. Or in one of the other books, you have this manuscript that was written by a writer, and you have these fragments of that manuscript. And so most of these books give me something extra, I'd say, that make them even more special to me. But this one didn't do that. You just have the case that they are trying to solve, and then you have the layer of the relationship between Cormoran and Robin, which actually irritated me a lot in this one. In the previous book we ended up with a cliffhanger, and I really wanted this book to continue on that, to explore that more. But what actually happens in this one is that it gets postponed again, and during this whole book I felt that these characters were not acting according to their normal character, especially Cormoran, and that annoyed me quite a lot. And it was so obvious that it was like stretched out, really spread thin throughout this whole book, just to end up with a cliffhanger once more. And it just feels to me like the author was going one book too far with this storyline, and it should have ended here. It should have resolved one way or another in this book, and then continued into the next ones. Yeah, so too bad. And then because I read such long books, I only managed to read 4 books this month, and the last book that I read was Catabasis by R.F. Kuang. This book is about this student of magic called Alice. She is studying at the University of Cambridge, but she is studying magic with CK. And Alice has this really famous mentor, but her mentor dies, and she decides to follow him into hell and get him back because she needs him as a mentor, because he has to give her good references in order for her to get a good job. It's, well, quite functional, I'd say. It doesn't really have any emotional basis for going into hell to retrieve this professor. But Alice is accompanied by another student, Peter, who just decides to go along with her. And then when they are in hell, they visit different layers of hell, like described in Dante's work and Ovid's work. And, well, things happen in this book and things don't happen in this book. How do I explain this book? let me just say that I didn't like this book. It actually felt like it was written by two different authors or something, because you have on the one hand this really academic writing style, which is quite heavy-handed. You have a lot of hefty vocabulary, which is fine. If you choose to go down that path, I don't mind. I also liked like the philosophy that was in there, references to other books and other treatises on the different subjects that are tackled in this. I don't mind that, but it's just that on the other hand, you had this quite, I would say even childlike parts, which use kind of even vulgar words sometimes, which are quite mundanely written, and it just really felt like this book couldn't decide what it wanted to be. So it could be a romance, but it was not a romance. It could be an journey record, how do you call that? Itinerary of visiting hell, but it isn't that either, because some layers were skipped. It could be like a philosophical book, but it isn't that either, because it definitely isn't all philosophical, and a lot of the philosophical issues I felt weren't treated as profoundly as could be. So this book confused me, but not in a good way. I had trouble finishing this one as well, but I did. And yeah, I can definitely say this is not one of my favorites. I feel like R.F. Kuang has this idea of what she wants to produce, and then there are certain parts of her books that she writes fluently or that come naturally to her, and then I feel like there are parts of her books that are overwritten, that have been worked at again and again, and it makes them too stodgy. Is that like a word that could fit here? I'm going with it. And then there are also parts that seem to have been written too quickly, just to like tie up some things together and go on to the next bit, and it doesn't work for me like that. I prefer a book that is a bit more smooth in its writing, if that is a thing. Smooth versus stodgy. Yeah. Alright, so that was everything that I read in September. I hope you liked this video. If you did, give it a like, subscribe if you haven't done so already, and I hope to see you soon in another video. Bye!